Yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for watching. And we all observed the Black Stars of Ghana playing in the AFCON qualifier today against Madagascar in Antananarivo. To say the AFCON qualifiers have thrown in some surprises, especially Zambia beating Cote d'Ivoire, the host nations, by 3 goals to nothing, and it's a result that doesn't surprise many. Zambia, led by Avram Grant, have rebuilt the team since they qualified and won the AFCON in 2012. They've been failing to qualify, so it's understandable that they put in a lot of energy by hiring Avram Grant for this particular campaign. And Grant, with his experience twice with Ghana, his second spell on the continent, was able to drop the Ivorians by 3 goals to nothing. Of course, the Ivorians do not need, result for anything. They've qualified automatically as host nation. So it was pretty obvious to see the sort of goals they conceded and the lack of energy and enthusiasm in their play. But of course, the other results, as in Morocco, also losing. So it's pretty clear that there are some teams who are likely to play it soft. Morocco have already qualified, so losing will not be somehow a dent on them, the World Cup surprising package. But of course, these are the teams that have already qualified. We have Ivory Coast as the host nation. In January 2023, they are expected to host a very thrilling AFCON. There is Morocco. Algeria have qualified. The Desert Foxes have looked a bit lethargic in their play recently, but I believe that they will come good by the time the tournament starts. South Africa have qualified, and so it will look really interesting. And there is also Senegal and Burkina Faso, Tunisia, Egypt, Zambia, like I mentioned, Equatorial Guinea, who were winners of the group, and Mozambique. So we already know some of the teams that have qualified for the tournament itself. But then we come to Ghana against Madagascar, which to me is a crucial point of discussion. A very boring game. I don't remember last time I saw the Black Stars play an away game with enthusiasm and clear tactical display. I don't remember, and I'm not being critical. It would be very difficult for anyone to point out. I think that under Kwesi Appiah, when I watched the Black Stars in Kumasi draw with Congo Brazzaville to lose their World Cup spots before the 2018 World Cup in Russia, the Black Stars went to Brazzaville to whitewash the Congolese by 5 goals to 1 the day Thomas Partey captained the Black Stars and scored a hat-trick. There was also Alfred Duncan that day. And of course, we had Afri Yakwa also scoring 5-1. And that was the last time I think the Black Stars, especially to further emphasize this point, the Black Stars have not won an away game in this qualification process. With teams Central African Republic, Angola, and Madagascar, and the Black Stars have not won an away game, which is very, very worrying for a team that, prides itself as a giant on the continent. So I believe that with this performance today, the Black Stars will really need to up their game. It's been 3 months since Chris Hughton took over, but I'll be delving into the game today to see exactly how they, set out the team and what actually happened with their play. It was listless, it was a worrying display, it was very boring, and the players did not look like they wanted to qualify. That's the point. They did not look like a team that was serious of looking for qualification. Like I saw Zambia very serious. I saw, teams that looked like they want to qualify. Even Nigeria against Sierra Leone. But the Black Stars just needed a draw or even a win in matches, and they travel away and play like there is nothing at stake, which is very, very worrying for a team that's supposed to be a giant. Of course, we've seen the teams that have qualified, but there are key things that I want to touch on. First of all, I believe that the pitch was very poor. Not an excuse though, the pitch was very poor, and I don't think that at this point in 2023, CAF will be approving such match venues for African Cup of Nations qualifiers. We seem to have problems with a lot of issues in Africa with respect to facilities. But of course, if you want to host an AFCON game, we've seen so many countries being sent out of their original venues to play their matches away, and it nearly happened to Ghana. I don't think that you have to subject top international professionals to such kind of pitch. It was very poor. It was very, very, the grass had, completely, it looked like a grazing field at a point, and I referred to it as a tomato surface. You cannot play an international game of this magnitude, a qualification to the African Cup of Nations on this pitch, a pitch that you've sent organizers and inspection team to. I don't think that CAF is serious with its own competition. And there's more reason why a lot of people do not take African football serious. Because if you subject players like Thomas Partey, forget about the performance, but I'm talking about something that's very critical. That's a whole African Cup of Nations qualification game played at the capital of a team that is serious about investing in football, a team that has had a former CAF president before, and you sent inspection team to go on such a pitch. CAF needs to get serious with its own tournament. This is not supposed to happen in 2023. And so the first thing I observed was that the pitch did not look like a pitch that is suitable and fit for purpose. For a game of this nature, I do not think that we had to play on such a pitch. And also, there are so many issues with African football. But the point is that once you want to raise the image of the game, such pitches, you do not need to subject teams to play on them. Secondly, I think that Coach Chris Hughton must understand that the holiday period is over. You do not need to, this is not a point where you couch players. This is not a point where you begin to curse and look like you want to pamper some players, and this is the point where you start a rebuilding. And my interest with the appointment of Chris Hughton was the fact that he's seen the team at the World Cup. He was the technical advisor. He's observed the team from when they played the qualifiers to the World Cup up to the World Cup, and he was given the job, even though a tad too late, in my opinion. He could have been given the job immediately after the AFCON, since Otuado, and this is something that we cannot belabor. But you know the team, and so are you in the process of rebuilding the Black Stars of Ghana, or you are rehashing the old theme that people have consistently criticized? Because I do not see anything extraordinary in the 3 months that he's taking the team. In the friendly games, in the AFCON qualifiers, we've not won an away game in the entire No, when I talk about these things, people think that all the teams are now in top shape. You can never tell the Brazilian national team that every team has learned how to play football. So it's normal to lose. That's why countries like Argentina and Brazil, Germany, they set the standard. They will lose, but the excuse of everyone has learned. Madagascar have not learned how to play football. And so you cannot play a qualification process and then fail to even win a game away. And when it becomes important, or when it's needed most to win a game, the players look like there is nothing at stake. Now, look, talking about Chris Hughton, the selection to me did not reflect a coach who was eager to win. That's the point. There was no reflection. There was no statement made in Chris Hughton's lineup. I think that, but for injury, I even start with the midfield. We are playing Madagascar away. Why do we have to still continue with? We know you are a defensive coach, but the insistence on playing a double six, two defensive midfielders. If a lot of you have been here watching. If you observed, Thomas Partey and Abdul Samed Salis were almost flat throughout the game. Partey was the brightest spot for most part of the game. But if you observed, it was very difficult for the team to carry the ball up front and supply the strikers, if you observed. Because you are playing two defensive midfielders. And Salis Samed has had a very exciting and a very brilliant season at his club, qualifying for the Champions League. He's developed that sort of confidence to carry the ball forward. But he's a typical defensive midfielder. He doesn't have the skill to carry the ball forward and supply the attackers, whether you want to play it out to the wingers or you want to penetrate the opposition through the middle, regardless of what you want to do or whatever the team sets out to do. But if you observe the game, almost the entire duration, Partey and Salis were on the same wavelength, which to me seemed like we went into the game to defend. Because you have two defensive midfielders. None of them was interested in carrying the ball forward, because typically Salis is a defensive midfielder. He doesn't even want to cross the center line. And Thomas Partey has become very comfortable in that role. And so I think that Chris Hughton wanted Andre Ayew to be the ball carrier. But at this age, we have to be very honest. Andre Ayew has been squeezed. Before you even talk about or criticize his performance, he's been squeezed a lot. It is at this point that we have to realize that the captain doesn't have the strength and energy. I wouldn't even want to play Andre Ayew in away games where it is a bit, robust. The level of play is very aggressive. The intensity. These are players in Madagascar who do not really care about tactics and performance. So a lot of the time they are just coming in with tackles and they don't care. They just want to impress. This is not a team like Ivory Coast or Morocco where you expect the players to put the ball on the turf and play to tactical disposition from the coaches. This is a team that wants to impress their home fans, and they are playing against the Black Stars, so they want to come in with tackles. So why do you actually play two defensive midfielders and put Andre Ayew at his age and with the lack of activity at his club to carry the ball to an opposition that is generally aggressive? It was always not going to work. This is what he tried in the game against Angola in Kumasi, where Kudus Mohammed was supposed to carry the ball forward, but the team Angola had set up to play defensively. And it had to take the last minute of the game for Usman Bukhari to come in and score that goal. We would have drawn the game. And this is the point that we all have to make. With the level of play of the Black Stars and the performance in recent times, it wouldn't be surprising to sit at home for Central African Republic. And I watched their game against Nigeria. You understand? I watched their game against Nigeria the last time. They came to Abuja to stand the Nigerians. We are not Nigeria, but the point is that with the kind of play we have exhibited in recent years, it is very, very possible for any team to come to Ghana. Remember what Zimbabwe came to do in Cape Coast. Remember how we struggled against South Africa. You all remember how we struggled against Ethiopia in that game that rained, and it had to take a shot from the midfield to beat the goalkeeper, and that was the only shot on target we have played the entire game, if you all remember. So it took us to the 92nd minute to score against Angola in Kumasi. So everything is possible with the Black Stars in recent times. I think the coach needs to understand. I also don't get the point where one of the tallest players in our team, if not the tallest, is Jordan Ayew. And he's been taking corner kicks for God knows how long. This was happening under Kwesi Appiah. It happened under Otuado. It's happening under a coach that I thought was much more exposed. I don't know. But if you have a player of Jordan's height, we've seen what Roy Hodgson has done recently with Jordan, and he scored a goal and with his head. It means that once you put him in the 18-yard box and you tell him what to do, it's possible for Jordan to score goals. He's lost his confidence and the grit a bit. But Jordan Ayew has been whipping in our corner kicks, sometimes free kicks to throw in, and we don't seem to even have a set piece expert like the Sule Muntaris. At points where you have a set piece and you know that Kojo Asamoah or Sule Muntari, it is 60% going into the goal area to create an opportunity. I watched Ghana against Egypt in Kumasi, one of the finest games at home, when we beat them on October 13th, 2013 by 6 goals to 1. We saw the set pieces. We don't seem to have a set piece expert. Ghana as a team. And African football is more of set pieces. If you watch Zambia against Ivory Coast, how many set pieces? African football, like Abraham Grant has always said, one opportunity and you score. A little mistake and you score. This has continued for far too long. Jordan Ayew is a good player. He's consistently proving that he's not a good set piece. He's not an expert. He's not converted any of them. I don't remember the last time Jordan Ayew scored from a free kick. If any of you remember, you can just point it out. This is not to criticize, but I don't know why one of the tallest players or the player with the ability to score goals in the team has been taking set pieces, corner kicks, and you see Osman Bukari, who is below 5.8, comes into the 8 in the air box, and Jordan Ayew will go to the corner, flag to take a corner kick. I don't get it. How do we expect to score? These are basic facts. I don't know how this is. If he's scoring from free kicks, you can pardon and understand. But he's not scored from any of the free kicks. And I don't remember the last time somebody converted from a Jordan Ayew free kick. So how long do we have to continue, practicing something that has failed over and over again? If it is time that we have to develop somebody as an expert on set pieces, we have to. But it is something that we need to also take note of the fact that set pieces have become very integral in football, and you do not have to allow set pieces to go waste. It seems that we don't have anybody in the team who is a good set piece taker. Corner kicks. If Jordan Ayew is taking these set pieces from 20 yards, 30 yards, that's understandable. But for years he's been doing this. Sometimes 50 yards, and he's shooting. Sometimes, and we saw one today, a very advantageous free kick to throw in. And we can't continue with this and expect to be a giant. Ghana is playing to qualify for the AFCON. The AFCON in Cote d'Ivoire will be the 34th edition of the tournament. Only Egypt have qualified more, with the most appearances at the AFCON, 23. And we are eager and in the process of wanting to qualify for the 24th AFCON. But this one has become a bit turbulent. And if we look at the past events, the moments we struggle to qualify for the AFCON, we struggle to even do well at the tournament. If you cannot beat Madagascar, and it is not just about beating, people should understand. It is not just about beating. If you cannot convince people that you outplayed Madagascar, had chances and failed to score, then we will all understand that, of course, this is a team that performed creditably well to a top level and failed to score. You cannot play against Madagascar in a game and be the second best team on the pitch. Your players playing in top leagues are not the outstanding players at the end of the game. You struggle to beat Angola. You struggle to beat Ethiopia. You struggle to beat Sudan. You won't get to the AFCON and do anything extraordinary. When Algeria went through the qualification process, beating all the 6 teams in the group, they won it. When you have the form, you have to exhibit. You have to stamp your feet and make a statement. That is how teams come in, and then they have the fright of playing against you, because your might alone in the qualification, it's something that is troubling for opposition. Ghana Black Stars have lost their fear factor. You have Kudus, you have Kamaldeen, you have Partey, you have all these players playing at the top level in clubs, and you cannot put them together. There is no fear factor. Madagascar were today worried that they couldn't beat Ghana. But previously, people don't want us to go back. But a few years ago, playing against teams like Madagascar, they will be, Black Stars will be magnanimous enough to live there with a 2-0 scoreline, a win. And I've watched games in Mali, qualifiers for the World Cup, where Black Stars will beat a strong Malian side in Mali, beat Sudan, and this is not happening. We've not won a game away for so long a time. And you cannot be, eager to win the AFCON with such kind of performance. We should not be mediocre. That's the point. We are becoming too mediocre, and this sort of performances have continued for years, and you all know. You see them whipping in free kicks to, corner kick, people hitting corner kicks like they don't care, and at the end of the day, it's 90 minutes. Central African Republic drew with Ghana in a circumstance and situation that I found very, very worrying and troubling. We went to, is it Seychelles or the other island? And it was a disaster under Kwesi Appiah. We struggled to even string passes together. It's quite worrying. And we need to find an antidote to how the Black Stars have become very ordinary. You know, sometimes it's about the stage. When we went to the World Cup, I think I saw 2-3 games that were a bit good. And because sometimes the players want to put in an effort for reasons best known to them. But then today was quite horrible. And it's not for today. I've watched far more horrible games, from the Black Stars than we've done with this. And then we come to the Central African Republic game, which will be played in September. People, anything is possible in African football now. They can come here and set up to defend and score on the counter. If we continue to play like we've done, it's very possible. We should never discount or underrate any team when it comes to the Black Stars. It is very possible for the Black Stars to come home and lose. If they continue playing like this, the coach should be bold enough to drop players that everyone knows. Players who have, become weak. Players who are not supposed to play for 90 minutes. The national team is too big. We need to introduce players. There is Nyama. One problem with Ghanaians is that when a player comes on top for 1, 2, 3 games, the player gets the hype, and then all of a sudden he sees himself as a Messi or Maradona, and then you cannot even criticize them. The next game they play like they've never trained before. And so you have to always keep on changing. If you are a coach in the national team in Africa, particularly sub-Saharan Africa, where players lack discipline, they lack tact, players lack professionalism, you have to always be putting on new players to give up the sort of competition. And that is the only reason why Milovan Rajevac succeeded. A lot of you can go back and check. Milovan Rajevac came in as a very poor coach tactically, and we saw that in the aftermath of AFCON 22, and we've seen that when he went to Algeria and other places. Tactically, he's not good. What worked for him was that there were a lot of players in the national team who saw themselves as prima donnas and they could not be substituted. He came in and put in Andre Ayew, benched Lai Kenzen and Sule Muntari, put in Samuel Nkum, put in a lot of young players, and benched the old guys. And that is where the struggle began. If you bring in Sule Muntari, he knows that Andre Ayew is there, and Sule Muntari wants to shoot from the center to score because the next game will not be an opportunity for him to stay on the field. That is why you do. A lot of our players play 1, 2, 3 games, and that's all. I've seen it over and over again. So the coach needs to be serious with how he pampers. I call it pampering, because if not for pampering, there were players who were not supposed to play 20, 30 minutes in the game that we watched. Forget about the fact that the pitch was poor, which I have highlighted. But the Black Stars need to man up. They need to show their fear factor. Sometimes the pitch is bad, but you can see the grit and metal from players who want to win. Just one goal is enough. Throughout this AFCON qualification process, I think Mohamed Kudus and then Usman Bukari Afnajan, and these are players who have scored. We don't even have a striker. So the AFCON is in January, and from now to January is barely 6 months. So this 6 months, are we going to conjure having a striker? That's why I find it too strange that Chris Hilton is still sticking to the old ways and the orthodox play of the Black Stars, having players who have played in the team for all these years and still keeping them. We need to toughen, and the coach needs to come back. This is not where we do try and error. It is time is far past for the Black Stars to have a team that you can close your eyes and say, this guy will be in number 2, this guy will play number 3. People have seen this before, so it's not strange that you can predict the Black Stars 11. A lot of us didn't even know who was going to play center midfield and who was going to play here. And the overconfidence in defense, sometimes you think that people see themselves as John Mensah, or they are Sami Kufuor, or they are whoever. I mean, I don't know. But if we cannot beat Madagascar, what is this showmanship and boastfulness and, I mean, braggadocio for? If we cannot beat Madagascar, you are beating them by 6-0. I mean, if you play for the Black Stars, you beat Egypt by 6-1. You can come out with your chest out and say, I mean, you are a big player, you are a big name player. If you cannot beat Madagascar, you cannot beat Angola, you cannot beat, I mean, Ethiopia. You cannot win convincingly against these smaller teams. And that is the more reason why we go to the AFCON in recent times, 2017, 2019, and after group stages. Now, and it's coming. You know, the evidence is given from finals to semi-finals, dropping to quarterfinals, and then we come into round of 16. In 2019, we were kicked out in the round of 16. Then in 2022, in the group stages by Comoros, it's becoming too humiliating. We should not set the bar just for World Cup qualification and play 3 matches in the World Cup and waste money and come back. We need to build the fundamentals. And reason why I think, Chris Hilton came in, but I've not seen anything new. People should be bold to tell the coach that, and we all, that the honeymoon period is over. And the Ghana is not a defensive team. They put in 2 defensive midfielders to go and defend against Madagascar. That's shameful, and we need to be serious before the AFCON comes up. But then the game against Central African Republic in September will decide whether Ghana will qualify for our 24th AFCON or still continue to be this poor in years. We cannot be poor for 7 or 6 out of 10 games, and the Black Stars are poor. We've not played any top gun in Africa. We've not played Algeria. We've not played Senegal. We've not played Morocco. We've not played, all these top teams who have won the AFCON in recent times. We are only playing Madagascar, Angola, Zimbabwe, South Africa, and you cannot play, better against these teams. What else can you do at the tournament? So these are some of the things that I think the coach and the FA needs to point out, because if we are only going to make numbers in the AFCON and exits in group stages, we better stay home. That's the point, because this is a country that's in the AFCON. 40 years we've not won it. This year, it's 41 years. We won it in 1982. 41 years we've not won the AFCON. For how long can we continue doing, try and error, bringing in a coach and still sticking to players who are past their prime, spent forces? Nobody is saying that they should cut players off the national team, but players must understand that when their times are past, they need to, be at the back for the young ones to play. And if the players do not understand, that is why we hire a coach and pay them thousands of dollars above what the president of the country earns, to take critical decisions for the interest of the country and for the excitement and joy of the people who love football, not to, caress and masturbate, titillate the interest of a few players at the expense of the joy of all. Thank you very much for watching. So I'll be reading some few comments from here. I think there are people who want to join the feed. If you have a comment that you want us to read, you can send in your comments and why you also found. Dede should not be starting. I've said it, and it's not like I don't like Dede, but of course his time is past. Not saying that he cannot play the Black Stars, but to subject Dede to 90 minutes of this horrible pitch and then display, I don't know, but we need to get serious. Dede can always be introduced or can start games when we think that we need. I highlighted this on TV the last time, that Dede has the experience or the expertise of big game. He's a big game player. He's used to be scoring goals for Black Stars, but the energy is not there. You cannot cheat nature. These are things that are natural. So the coaches must understand that it's not time to be kissing players on the chin or cheek and telling them that they are the ones that will die for Ghana through and through. We just need to be serious. No serious country in this world will want to win an AFCON or want to win the World Cup and still keep on, continuing a process that has not worked. It's not worked for Yes. I mean, for 41 years, you've not won AFCON. Almost 75% of the population have not, in Ghana, have not seen an AFCON trophy before. We've gone to the World Cup though, but when it comes to the African Cup, we are no more a big team. And if we want to, endure that spirit of being a big team and put the fear factor in opposition, this is not how we go about it. If Madagascar is sad, if Madagascar is looking a bit more, restless on the field and in distress that they played a drawn game against Ghana, which opposition, will be afraid of you? And the fear factor plays football. So I always blame coaches. Have you considered the commitment of what I think? That's where it comes in. And I like your point. Somebody is asking why we blame coaches and we don't question the commitment of players. Look, who has the responsibility of selecting players? If you select players, this is the same point I've been making over and over again. If there are players in the team who think that their commitment it's not up to task, I cannot sit in my room. I'm in my room. I cannot sit here and call out these players. I can only call them out visually. I cannot even get closer to the field. It is the responsibility of the coach to know that this is a guy who has consistently shown that his commitment, and if he takes that decision and sticks to it. I always, use the example of Zambia. When Zambia were preparing for the AFCON in 2012, the best player in the team was not Christopher Katongo, it was not Nathan Sinkala, it was not Emmanuel Mayuka, it was Clifford Mulenga. A lot of you can check. And that's why a lot of people fell in love with Hervé Renard. And there were questions in Zambia. I still have front pages of papers questioning the decision to drop Clifford Mulenga, who was the most skillful player in the team. The coach dropped him based on commitment, grounds. The fans objected to this decision and they vehemently protested that the coach bring in Clifford Mulenga. And he said he wanted to go to war with 11 army of disciplined players than players who are only skillful and are not committed. He went to the AFCON and won. So it is the call of the coaches. If we cannot blame the person we have entrusted with the power to take critical decisions, then what are we here for? If I can bring in a coach and say I cannot blame the coach for fielding uncommitted players who are non-committed, then what else? It is the responsibility of Chris Hilton to know who is committed and who is not committed. It is not for me sitting 4,000 or 3,000 miles away. You understand? If the player is not committed, so somebody is asking where are the committed players. It is for the coach to find out who is committed. If you want to call a local player who is not up to task but is committed, sometimes you all watch football. Teams can lose. Players may lose. Sometimes a player may score an own goal and the entire country will be, or club, will even be back, stand behind the player. Why? Because they find commitment in the play. He was only going to clear the ball. We saw the run. We saw the 60-meter run when his energy and gas was almost emptied. So you cannot even question. Why do you have to say that people have to call out players? We call them out. Whose decision is it to drop the players who are uncommitted? You cannot, leave out the coach and blame players. You understand? Some of them do, they are very good players in the team. And they are very, players who are also not committed, like you are saying. But it is not my responsibility, it's not your responsibility. It is the responsibility of the coach. To do what? To find out who is committed. And he can find that out by their demeanor at training. He can find out by their posture, by their relationship, by their interaction. He's a manager, he's not a coach. So you cannot be exonerated from the fact that players are not committed and are playing. Who else is to be blamed? And nobody is criticizing. I'm not sure you watch football. If you're a football fan, you will not call, something like that as criticism. Football is about that. Today it doesn't go well. Everyone will have the opportunity to point out things they didn't see well. That's not criticism. You can stay in your room and not talk about the Black Stars. Nobody cares. But if people want to point out issues, that's why we are all here. When they win, we write articles, we write, exaggerations about things they did. So why are you worried? If you call them criticisms, it's a Manchester United. That's the game of football. You win 10 matches, you lose one, and people will have, because they always want to win. That's it. It's not your wife's soup in the house that you can take it and say it's not going well, but I have to take it. It's your wife's soup. It's a national team, not your wife's soup. So if you don't want to criticize and you see it, I mean, when it goes good, the same channels that we come here. Thank you very much. Amate is not good. Yeah, of course, Amate has not been on top form for a long time, so it's quite obvious. But at least, like I'm saying, for today, it was not only Amate or Kudus or whoever. A lot of the players were actually not in their. Every country is doing well in football now, so please excuse us. Okay, every country is doing well. That's why we also want to do well. Or every country is doing well, so we should excuse you so that you don't do well. So your own analogy and input defeats your thoughts. Every country is doing well. Why is your country not doing well? That's the point. You cannot go and tell Brazil that Peru have beaten them 3-0, and you tell the Brazilian team that every country is doing well. That's a very bogus excuse. Fall flat. When there are teams at some level, you understand. Every team in the EPL is doing well, but Manchester United are eager to bring in investors. They want to sack their coach. There are levels. People must understand football. There are levels. There are ancestors. There are godfathers. There are people who have built the foundation. So people have tasted. You know, when you don't have money and you have 100 cedis, it means so much. You have $100, it means so much. That's your level. So you are able to stay within. Somebody has $1 million and he's able to have taste. Why is he able to have $1 million? It's because they've worked. Ghana is not Madagascar. It's not Comoros, where you win one game and you have to celebrate. You know, that's why as far back as 1970, the Black Stars of Ghana went to the AFCON and lost in the final. And then when they lost in the final, they came back and they were hiding. This is what I'm talking about. So people must understand that there are levels. Yeah, I'm on video. Go back. Video. Yes. Go and watch your cartoons. So how could you play Madagascar and not even a shot on target? So you have to set standards. Argentina, Brazil, England. So San Marino beats England or holds them, and you come and say that everyone has learned how to play football. That's the coach's excuse in England. That's laughable. You know, your forefathers have set standards. People have enjoyed winning. In Madagascar, they've not won the AFCON before, so one game against Ghana is an achievement. In Ghana, we have won the AFCON. So you want to go higher. That's life. It's natural, you understand? We just need to stay by the standards that your forefathers set. People have the taste of goodness. So if Manchester United fans are criticizing their coaches, it's not because Brentford have not been good, but Manchester United do not see themselves as being in the same bracket as Brentford. That's what's called mediocrity, and that's what's become very palatable in Ghana. You draw against Ethiopia and they say everyone is now playing well, you know, because they become mediocre. That's the point. Everyone is playing well. It's an excuse that if you tell a coach in Germany to say it at a press conference, he's resigning that very moment, or he's being sacked, that Germany gets beaten, or they require a win to progress to the World Cup, then they are held by Lithuania at home. And the coach's excuse is that everyone has learned how to play football. That moment you leave, because they know their standard, and Lithuania is not their standard. Ghana, we know our standard. We are fallen, and it's because of comments like what people are saying. You know, everyone has learned how to play football. Côte d'Ivoire came, they've won the AFCON. Ghana won 4, Egypt had won how many AFCON? 1. They won how many now? So, I mean, should it be their excuse that everyone has learned how to play football? So, even if we don't win, it's normal. You have to know your standards, set standards. If your dad leaves a standard for you in a business, you continue from that point. You don't say everyone is doing good at business, so mine is collapsing, it's normal. That's a very poor excuse, and it's becoming sweeter. And the cliche in Ghana now, even coaches say it, is the standards. If you are a Manchester City fan now, you won the Champions League. If any coach comes in, you want them to win a repeat. That's the standard at Real Madrid, Manchester United, Barcelona, standards. So they cannot be beaten by Victoria Pleasant. They can be beaten. It happens, but they cannot make the excuse. I mean, they cannot put in excuses that everyone has learned how to play football. So when they beat Barca, Barca will rebuild and come. They will rebuild and come back to beat them because they know their standards. It's a lazy man's cliche, of course, for people who don't want to improve. That's it. That's the better description by Robert. It's a lazy man's cliche. I once heard a coach at a press conference say this, and I was cringing. I didn't understand. You came into a country where your forefathers had won the African Cup. Forget about the fact that it was won in the days of yore. Forget, Real Madrid won the AFCON, the European Championship 5 consecutive times. That was the standard. So when you come in and you don't win, in the past, Chelsea had coaches who would just play 12 and they will be praised. But when they won the Champions League, they bring in a coach, he wins the league, wins the FA Cup, and he's sacked. Because it's about standards. Only lazy people and mediocre people always want to live within or be below the standards and say that, okay, it's fine. If Ghana draws against Madagascar, even when they need a win to qualify, it's fine because Madagascans have learned how to play football. Yeah, they've learned how to play football. But then it means that you've been very retrogressive. That you learned how to play football, you won the AFCON, qualified for 22 AFCONs before Madagascar qualified for one. You had qualified for 22 and been to the grand finale for 5 times when Madagascar had not even thought of organizing football league in their country. So you cannot come and say that everyone is learning how to play. Like I say every day, I believe in people who have standards. Madrid, if you don't win the Champions League and you are a coach, what's the achievement there? Winning the league has become like drinking water because of the standards. In Egypt, it's a standard. If you come and you don't win the AFCON, they sack you. If you get to the final, Hector Cuper reached the final, they sack him. It's a standard there. So Ghana has become comfortable with a coach getting eliminated in the group stages of the AFCON because everyone has learned how to play football. That's it. When you are first in class, from class 1, class 2, class 3, you get to JSS, you get to university, you are still first, then level 300 you are dropping, and your excuse is that everyone has learned how to play football. So where were all those people when you were being first? They've learned how to, and what were you doing between the period that they were learning? Because of course, you already have a foundation, so you are supposed to stand higher, a notch higher. We need to, psych people. We need to let people understand. Bring a coach, striker, the money is too small. So, of course, when we say some of these things, it's true. Chris Hughton is a top coach. Maybe we just need to be a bit more radical in rebuilding the Black Stars. Some of you know that if you go to Europe, I don't know, but if you read on what articles that this present journalists write, Ghanaian players abroad, it is difficult, and we don't want to take the long road. I know for Zambia, they started rebuilding with Pasindaka, Fashion, Sakala, Tosta and Sabata, youngsters from the under-20 campaign, young players, in facing out the lives of Nathan Senkala and Kennedy Mwene and all that. It's difficult, but then at the end of the day, it pays. England have started the rebuilding from their under-20. Now they are getting to semi-finals of the World Cup. They are getting closer. You have to rebuild. And our difficulty is the fact that we don't want to rebuild. One of the most difficult things is that when the German national team coach, Joachim Löw, wanted to start this rebuilding process and met Jerome Boateng and Martin Mills in a hotel and told them that respectfully they've done their best and he wants to move in a different direction. In Ghana, it would have been, all of us, the hypocritical animal in us would have been backing. But yeah, there are coaches who will meet the top players in teams and suggest to them that it's time to move on. To that point, the coaches must make an effort to say we are rebuilding with the likes of Kuda. We have to start rebuilding. That's the point. I think I've spent far too much time here. We wish the Black Stars well in the last game against Central African Republic, and I believe that with their change of mindset, mentality lacking, the Black Stars will do well. So we wish them the best in whatever they do, and thank you very much for watching.